Good evening and welcome to Crowlax TV. My name is Keenan alongside Mojoma. We're bringing you the RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft right here on Crowlax TV. We're getting underway in just a few minutes. Make sure, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell every time we go live. We'll be bringing you all the action all season for the Crude, Rebels, Outlaws, Warriors, and new this year to Crowlax TV, the Rocky View Silvertips in the South Division. We're getting underway in just a few minutes here. Welcome once again to Crowlax TV.
How about now? All right. Well, good night, good evening, everyone. My name is Ian Stewart. I am the commissioner of the Tier 1 division in the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse League. Welcome to the 2024 North Division Draft. It's wonderful to see everybody out here. The excitement builds every year, and this event grows every year. So it's nice to see. So thank you for coming out and sharing this experience with all the players that are coming out and hopefully making rosters on these teams for the upcoming year. I'll just explain a little bit about the draft and how that works tonight. We have roughly 20 rounds. We can go a max of 20 rounds here tonight. For the first 6 rounds, each team has 5 minutes to make their pick. Every round after that, there's 3 minutes on the clock, so we speed things up a little bit after the first 6 rounds. Anytime through the night, each team is given 2 3-minute timeouts. So if they're working on a trade, possibly, or they're just undecisive who they want to take for their next pick, they can call a timeout. Once the team passes on their pick throughout the night, they forfeit the rest of their picks for the rest of the draft, so they are done picking for the rest of the night. I will be calling up teams to make their own pick, so the representative will come up and make their own pick. So the first round will begin with the Outlaws with the first pick. The Crude will have the second pick. The Fort Saskatchewan Rebels will have the third pick, and then the Crude will have the 4th pick in the first round again. So I'd like to welcome up the Outlaws to make their first pick.
Carter Grace going first overall here in the RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft here in 2024. Mo, what do you got on this guy?
So I think a lot of people would have expected Carter Grace to go in this spot. And he's a shifty lefty with a lot of finish, and can also feed the ball. He's got good feet, a lot of agility. He can take a guy, defenders one-on-one, and he can also get open off ball. He brings a lot. He'll bring a lot to the Outlaws offense.
Carter Grace getting his picture here for social media. Outlaws. First overall pick, Carter Grace. Next on the clock coming up here will be the Crude Lacrosse Club, making the 2nd overall pick of today's draft. Seems as if the Crude are just looking for that right jersey in their duffel bag full of jerseys. And head coach Garen Schmerman coming up now, along with former Crude alumni Bryce Schmerman, make the 2nd pick. Oscar Twells, 2nd overall here to the Crude Lacrosse Club.
Keenan, this is a great pick. This is a kid whose game has really transformed over the last number of years. Kid I actually had the pleasure of coaching in U16, and his game is so well rounded. He can provide a lot of offense in transition. He can play. He's a defender with really good feet, and he could cover pretty much anybody on the opposing team. And he's a guy you can rely on to lock down the opposition's best players, as well as provide offense and up the floor as well.
Strong pick here from the Crude for the second overall. I know Garen Schmerman in the pre-draft episode of Junior Beast right here on Crowlax TV. Now you can find it in one of our playlists. Garen was saying how he had a plan going in. And he had his guys picked ahead of time. He knew what he wanted, and he got it by the looks of it. He's still got 4 and 5 here in the first 5 picks of this draft, so we'll see how the Crude go from here. As the Rebels are now on the clock for pick number 3.
And this will be an interesting pick here from the Rebels, as they're going to have to do a little bit of a rebuild on the fly, as they lost quite a bit in the offseason to graduation. They obviously lose Fodchuk back to the Crude, who was a rental. So we'll see what direction they go in here, as I believe they're also hosting the provincials next year. So I think they're going to want to try and build quickly here and get their roster worked the way back up to being a contender in the North.
The 4 Saskatchewan Rebels are proud to select from the Sherwood Park Titans, Tyler Manning.
Fort Saskatchewan Rebels choosing Tyler Manning from the Titans here, 3rd overall. We have heard now that Tyler is not here tonight. So Tyler, if you're watching, hope you're celebrating hard right now, my guy. What do you think about this pick, Mo?
So Manning brings a big body with a hard, heavy shot. He's a guy that is dangerous from the outside. He can also bring the ball up for you with a very physical frame. And it'll be interesting to see how the Rebels utilize him. He'll probably be playing out the front gate, but if need be, he's also a guy you can utilize in transition and playing some defense as well.
From the Edmonton Warriors,
Austin Wells, 4th overall to the Crude to round out the first round of this draft. Mo, what do you have on Austin, and why do you think the Crude would have picked him here?
One of the hardest things to find in lacrosse is guys with high-end IQ, and Austin Wells is a guy who understands where to find the soft areas of the floor, the areas of the floor he can be effective in, and he's really good on the power play. He can feed, he can shoot, and he can get inside, and this is another great pick by the Crude here.
Well, we do know now the Crude are going to be the next pick as well, pick number 5, the first one of round number 2 will go to the Crude. 2 strong picks so far from the Crude as we enter into the second round.
Now it'll be interesting to see if the Crude go with a goalie here. And you've got a couple on the board here. McGilvery out of the Posse is one that you might see them go with here. We'll see what they end up going with as the pick is getting ready to be announced.
The Crude select from the Sherwood Park Titans, William Nicapilo.
All right, Mo. Does William come a little bit as a surprise here from the Crude to you?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But he's a kid that has a high-end effort meter. He's a guy that'll run all over the floor and give you everything he has at all times. He's good on loose balls, and he'll help them in terms of gaining possession and getting the ball back for their offense.
Another good pick from the Crude. Now, Mo, I know one thing that head coach Garen Schmerman did tell me in the preseason show on Junior Beast is that his goaltending, he's very happy with that duo. So, personally, I don't think the Crude are going to take any goalies in this draft.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because I did talk with him as well, and he was telling me that they do have those guys pretty highly rated. Obviously, they have Horn in the fold. I don't know what they're doing with their second spot, but we'll see. I expect those goalies to go soon.
Proud select from the Edmonton Warriors,
Kai Ellis, number 6 in the 2024 draft.
So Kai Ellis goes to Beaumont out of South Edmonton, and it's another lanky defender with good reach. He's got good speed, can get the ball up the floor in transition for you, and his dad actually played a long time on the Outlaws senior team with coaches Kevin Hobday and Phil Smythe. So it's a nice fit there, and it'll be interesting to see how Beaumont continues to rebuild this roster with another good pick here.
Strong pick from the Outlaws as we move into the third pick of the second round. This one, the Rebels.
Third pick in the second round, number 7 overall, goes to the Saskatchewan.
Where do you see the Rebels moving from here after their first pick there in the first round?
So after the Rebels took Manning, it's a righty, probably going to go out the front gate. And I would assume they maybe look goalie here, or they go maybe start looking at some transition. But then again, they did lose a lot out the front gate to graduation, and obviously guys like Fodchuk through rentals, so they might go out the front. Really, they could go anywhere here. I don't really know if there's a real target here. I think they just got to take the best player on the board.
So what you're basically saying is that the Rebels are the real wild card in this draft. Here
Yeah,
on
and
out, basically.
they usually are too. They are the one team that more than any other will go off the board and take guys that maybe weren't suspected to go as high. So we'll see what they go with here.
So Rebels now making their way up to make their selection here, 7th overall.
With our second pick in the draft, we're proud to select from North U17A,
Cale Owen going to the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels. You can see him walking up here on the left. Another strong pick by the Rebels. Once again, a bit of a wild card, this Rebels team. Making their picks going in. As you mentioned, Mo, the Rebels looking for that front gate to replace a lot of the missing pieces. Do you feel like there's anything else they're really missing besides that front gate?
You know, last year they produced so much offense. I think that they'll be able to. I think they'll be able to replace some of it. I think for them right now, I think they want to really shore up their D in their transition game. I thought at times they struggled to gain possession back and move the ball up the floor. So I think maybe they might be trying to address that with that pick right that we just saw with Owen. We'll see what direction they go in, but right now I think they're just really trying to take a general approach to their roster and sort of even it out a little bit.
As we move into pick number 8 of the draft, this is the Edmonton Warriors' first pick of this draft. Mo, where do you see the Warriors going? You got the Founders Cup winning team here. Where do you see them going just quickly as they make their way up?
So they lose on a Frychuk, who is one of their better defender transition players. I feel like they might go there. Most of their front gates returning, and a lot of those guys are not expected to go up to A. So we'll see. I would guess that they do go in the defense on the defending side of things.
Select from the Warriors, Regan Carey.
Regan Carey going 8th overall to the Edmonton Warriors.
So Regan Carey is a player that had a really good second year of 16A with the Warriors. As they won the provincials last year, they beat Red Deer in the final, and Carey, his older brother, just spent his career with the Warriors, Coleman, and so Regan will come and probably try to step into his shoes, and he can provide a little bit of everything. He can play some offense, he can play defense, and he's not a huge guy, but he plays really tough. And he's a guy that I think will be good on loose balls and a little bit of bring some of the intangibles to the table.
As that completes the second round of the 2024 North Division Draft, we move into round number 3.
First pick in the third round was the Beaumont Outlaws.
As the Beaumont Outlaws have the first pick of this round. This is pick number 9 of this draft. Outlaws working intently here, trying to figure out what they're doing. It looks like they may have made their pick now, and they have. We'll see where the Outlaws go here to start this third round.
With the 9th pick, the Outlaws are proud to select from the Warriors, Wyatt Paulson.
Wyatt Paulson, 9th overall in this draft. Mo, What do you got?
So yeah, the sharpest guy here comes up to the podium, and Wyatt Polson out of the Warriors program will, as he gets the request to take his suit jacket off to put the jersey on, but
Don't want to wrinkle that thing. That thing's a
no,
night. That
yeah,
thing looks expensive.
that's sharp. But Wyatt Polson is a guy. He brings very good defensive acumen. He can get the ball up in transition, and much like Kai Ellis and guys like that that have already gone in this draft, he's got a long frame, a lot of reach. Great for having on your man short, getting sticks in the lanes, and knocking down passes. So this is another good pick by Beaumont.
Next up on the clock will be the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels with pick number 10 in this draft.
Second pick in the third round is Fort Saskatchewan Rebels.
We'll see where Fort Saskatchewan goes with this pick. Once again, thank you for tuning in here on Crowlax TV to the 2024 RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft. You can find all the games all season long right here for the Crude Rebels, Outlaws, Warriors, and new this season, the Silvertips out of the South Division. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, as Crowlax TV is also now the new home of the Junior Beast podcast. Myself and Eric bringing that to you all season long. Special guests throughout the season, Cody Jansen, Mo Joma. The list just goes on. So once again, be sure to subscribe, and thank you for tuning in once again. Rebels now making their way up to the podium. Once again, this is pick number 10 of this draft. Currently trying to figure out how to up the volume on the in-house PA system that we have here. It's just a slight delay. So we'll see where the Rebels go.
All right, with the 10th pick overall, second pick in the third round, we're proud to select from the Board Bruce Lacrosse Club, Gavin Badger.
Davin going 10th overall in this draft. Mo, do you have anything on him?
I believe they said that Davin is from Lloyd, right?
That
I
sounds
think,
right to me.
yeah, I
It sounded like
couldn't
the Lloyd
quite.
Junior program.
I couldn't quite pick up on what the PA went over the PA, but I didn't get a chance to see obviously kids in Lloyd, so I can't really tell you much. But I do know he went to the minors, so in the junior A draft, so he's obviously got a skill set that's attractive.
Absolutely, and it looks like the Rebels also will have the 11th pick of this draft, potentially, as they are staying up. They handed 2 sheets over.
And the number 11 pick in the third round is also a Fort Saskatchewan Rebels.
Can confirm it is the Rebels with one other pick.
Again, we are proud to select from Parkland Posse, goaltender Jake Rigo.
The first goaltender of this draft, going at pick number 11, Parkland Posse goaltender.
So I would say this is probably the first pick where I've gone. He should have won sooner. I thought that especially in a league that goaltending is at such a premium right now, grabbing a goaltender like this is really athletic, and he's really grown over the last couple of years. The knock on him was he was always kind of short, a little shorter, but he's got really good fundamentals. He's really efficient in the net, and he's really athletic. And most importantly, he's dedicated to always improving, and he's willing to work. So I think the Rebels made a great pick there with McGilvery.
Warriors get the final pick of this round.
Last pick in the third round goes to the Edmonton Warriors.
Pick number 12. Trying to turn it up a little more here. the people in the far back.
Wouldn't be shocked to see the Warriors take McLeod and Ned here.
Oh, we're about to find out.
Warriors are proud to select with our third round, 12th pick overall from North A, Lachlan Mayer.
They go a completely different direction. Lachlan Muir going 12th overall.
So don't have as much knowledge about Muir, but I think the Warriors here are making a concerted effort to shore up their back gate. They lose on a Frychuk, who also provided so much in transition. They lose Coleman Carey. They lose a couple others, and so they look to their back gate and they add Muir.
It does sound like, I think I heard some disdain over from the Rebels table. It sounded like the Rebels really wanted this guy. I think that the Warriors may have gone off the board a little bit to make that pick. Head coach Garen Schmerman of the Crew is up and moving around right now as the Outlaws are on the
First
clock.
pick of the next round is the Beaumont Outlaws.
Now, I'm pretty surprised that goaltender McLeod out of the Warriors organization hasn't been taken yet. We're now getting into the end of round 3 into round 4. So we'll see if he goes off the clock here pretty soon. I had him rated in the top 5 or 6 players overall, so I think whoever can grab him will get a steal.
And it looks like the Crude are trying to make some sort of deal here with the Outlaws. I don't know if they just agreed or anything, but it looks like there was a trade in the works that may have fallen through. As Garen Schmerman walks back to his table shaking his head, he didn't seem happy about it, but Outlaws are officially on the clock. First pick of round 4. This is pick number 13 overall. Outlaws have a lot of bodies at their table. They're chatting pretty intently here on who they want to take for this pick. I've been told the Outlaws do pick back-to-back, so they're probably more than likely just trying to decide on both of them right now, rather than eating up the clock for both of their picks. So far, a solid draft along the way, a couple of surprises. Not a lot of movement between the tables as it currently sits. So we'll see how this turns out. Outlaws now stepping up to the plate as they prepare for their pick number 13 and 14. Back-to-back picks here to kick off the 4th round.
The Outlaws definitely a team that need a goaltending, so we'll see if they go McLeod here.
13th pick, 4th round. Outlaws are proud to select McLeod goaltender.
And there it is, Mo. There is that goaltender pick you've been predicting, McLeod going to the Outlaws. And let me tell you, Mo, this is something that the Outlaws desperately needed, especially after bringing in Zadricel last year, and unfortunately that falling flat for them.
Yeah, and as good of a pick as McGilvery was for where the Rebels got, this is equally as good for the Outlaws to grab McLeod. At least 3, 4, 5 spots lower than he should have went. I think this is a huge boon for the Outlaws organization.
Wow.
Much like the jersey that McLeod just put on.
Looks like he's swimming. He's wearing a dress right now with this jersey. Photo is taken. We'll see who the Outlaws pick next. It appears they're heading back to their table. They may need some more deliberation before they make this pick. Outlaws have headed back to their table. It looks like they're going to use as much time as they can to make this second pick here of the 4th round. Once again, you're watching Crowlax TV. Thank you for tuning in to the 2024 RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft. Keenan Mojoma bringing you this tonight, live from the Delta South in Edmonton. Once again, make sure, subscribe, tune in all season long for all games in the North Division, Crude Rebels, Outlaws Warriors, and new this year, South Division's Rocky View Silvertips. Outlaws making their way up to make their next selection, second pick of round number 4.
Fourth round, number 14 pick from the Parkland Posse, Carter Dicken.
Carter Dicken, Parkland Posse, pick number 14 of this draft.
So Dicken will provide offense off the right side for the Outlaws, and he's a player. Obviously, you might recognize the name Dicken, Warriors, longtime offensive righty for them, and he's a kid that had a really good year last year in U16, and he'll provide a lot more of that for the Outlaws this year as they continue to build a young roster that has a lot of talent on paper.
With the 15th overall pick, the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels.
Rebels back on the clock here for pick number 15, round number 4, pick 3. A lot of movement from some of these tables here. Seems the Warriors did end up wanting Dicken. Head coach Vadeep, he looked like he shook his head after that pick was announced. As the Rebels are on the clock here in round number 4 of this draft.
With our 4th round selection, we are proud to select from the Warrior Fruits,
Teague Brown going here to the Rebels. Mo.
So I think the Rebels have definitely chosen a path here. I think that they're banking on a couple year of having these Lloyd kids for a couple of years before they are able to make the jump to A, and which is probably a good bet. As I think they're hosting next year. They're hosting Larry Bishop, so they want to be at their peak by next year. And I think by adding a couple of solid, really athletic kids out of Lloyd, that's the path they've chosen to start to rebuild the roster. And I can't say that it's a bad idea.
They're dedicated to this path. We'll see if it pays off for them as we move forward in the next couple seasons. But the Rebels seem pretty.
With the last pick of the 4th round, number 16 overall, the Edmonton Warriors.
As the Warriors are now on the clock here. As the Warriors on the clock now. But yeah, the Rebels have chosen their path, and it seems that it's going to be the way. It's going to be their way forward. Try and take the fight to the Warriors for the next couple seasons. Trenton Redlick going to the Edmonton Warriors here to finish off round number 4. Mo.
So the Warriors dip back into the North Pool and they pick up another very athletic kid out of the St. Albert program. Don't have as much information on this player, but he fits the mold of the Warriors, trying to replenish some of the size and strength that they lost out their back gate this past offseason. So now it starts to get pretty interesting because a lot of the obvious names have been taken off.
Rebels have now made their way up to the table as the Rebels now make the first pick of round number 5.
With the 17th pick, we are proud to select from the Warriors A, Quinn Patterson.
Quinn Patterson, the 17th overall pick of this draft.
So I think this is another sharp pick. I think Quinn Patterson is a guy that he's very good on draws, so that's a unique skill set right off the bat. He's much like a few other guys in this draft, a guy you can rely on to help you gain possession, which is everything in the sport of lacrosse. And he can provide some athleticism to their transition game, which they're going to need to address this offseason.
As we move into pick number 18 of the draft, second pick of round number 5 coming up. It's going to be the Beaumont Outlaws that will be on the clock here. You know, Mo, as we get deeper into this draft, I think what surprises me most so far about this draft is we haven't had a single trade yet in this draft. And usually by this point, in recent years anyway, there's at least been one trade early on.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't, or I'm not in a position to disclose what it was, but I think the Crude were trying to make a trade with one of their picks, one of their first few picks, but I don't know if it fell through or not. I think the target was the Outlaws, but maybe it's still possible. We'll wait and see.
Well, I will say that would definitely track as head coach Garen Schmerman was over there chatting with the Beaumont Outlaws as they have now made their way up to make their next pick.
The fifth round pick, number 18, the Titans, Brady Thompson.
Brady Thompson from the Titans going to the Beaumont Outlaws.
So I'm assuming you can probably see Grady on camera, a guy that's going to bring plenty of size and physicality to the Outlaws lineup. They've loaded up pretty strongly out the front gate, and now they look like they're starting to address their back gate. Scored quite a few goals last year. Probably the weaker side of their team was their D and their goaltending, and picking up McLeod and picking up Ellis and picking up Thompson and guys like that. That only serves to address some of the issues they've had, and we'll see how they move forward here.
And just a bit of information here. You can see on the right, Fort Saskatchewan Rebels now on the clock. You can see on the right side of your screen there, Garen Schmermond is over at the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels table. Once again, Garen, head coach of the St. Albert Crude. As Mo said earlier, he was trying to make a deal with the Outlaws, and we don't know if it fell through yet or not. I'm going to assume it probably did since Garen is over at the Rebels, but anything can happen still. He's been over there for a little while, so they seem to be actually considering it quite a bit here. I don't know if something happened there or not. Rebels now making their next pick of this draft.
With the 19th overall pick, we are proud to select from the Parkland Posse, Tyler Shelton.
Tyler Shelton from the Parkland Posse, the next pick for the Rebels.
So the Rebels follow in the footsteps of the Outlaws and draft another kid with size and a lot of reach. We've seen a few of these guys go in this draft. I'd say that's probably the most common type of player in this draft. Guys with height, guys with long, rangy arms and legs. And Shelton's a guy that can get the ball up the floor, play strong defense. He's very coachable. I've had experience coaching him in the past, and great kid. And I think the Rebels will be really happy with what he provides them this season.
Another strong pick from the Rebels here, as the Warriors will be next on the clock here in round number 5, I believe, final pick of 5. The Warriors immediately getting up from their table. They've had a little bit to make this pick. We'll see who the Warriors select.
Warriors are proud to select from North A, Tucker Darby.
Tucker Darby, the final pick of round number 5.
So the Warriors came in with a clear plan here, and it was to take North kids, as didn't have a lot of picks up in the top 10, top 12, and you've seen them take a few North kids now, and another guy that I think will help to fill some of the shoes that have been left behind. As like we said, Coleman Carey, Anna Fry, Chuck, Lachlan Gordon all graduate out, and those guys are all defenders and all guys that brought size to their team. And the Warriors will be younger out the back gate, but I think that they're doing a good job of adding athleticism, if nothing else.
Well, you're absolutely correct there, Mo. The Warriors knew that they didn't have any early picks coming in, and they have absolutely executed their plan perfectly of their later picks compared to the rest of the teams, as the Crude come up for the first pick of round 6. Lucas Bowie from the Edmonton Warriors program going to the St. Albert Crude. Mo, you're shaking your head. What do you got on him?
I think this is a really good value pick for the Crude. Bowie he's really gritty. If you see him on camera, he's not a very big guy, but he'll set hard picks. He'll go inside, go roll to the middle, and he can finish, and he can also dish the ball. So, and if you need him to play defense, he can do it as well. So I think the Crude got a player who can do a few different things for them, and especially at this point in the draft, I think that's invaluable.
Garen was also telling me in that pregame show or pre-draft show that he had a plan coming in, and it does seem like they did have to deter a little bit from it. But again, like you said, a great value pick heading into round number 6. It seems like the Outlaws already have their pick ready to go as well here. And Easton Couturier goes here to the Beaumont Outlaws. And just a quick note, head coach of the Warriors, Deep, is over talking to the Rebels table right now, potentially working on a trade. So Easton Couturier going here to the Outlaws program.
So the Outlaws add another goalie after they bring in McLeod a few rounds earlier. And now they bring in Couturier, a goaltender from the Park. Pretty big guy. He covers a lot of net. And I think the Outlaws have set themselves up pretty well in net moving forward. And I think overall, I mean, right now, if you ask me, I think the Crude and the Outlaws have done a really good job of addressing some areas of need and increasing their talent pool. I mean, most of all, when you come into a draft, you always want to increase your raw talent, and I think both teams have done that.
Apparently, there's a new team in this league, the Fort Saskatchewan Outlaws. It's just it's just misanounced there. So we just got past that pick of Easton Couturier, and head coach of the Warriors, Deep, is still over at the Rebels table as the Rebels are now on the clock. Do you, Mo, think the Warriors, do you kind of know what they might be targeting from the Rebels here? Do you think they're just trying to move up? Do you think they're trying to move somebody around? What do you got?
I mean, maybe Vegas, yeah, maybe Vegas trying to move up in this draft. Although at this point, I feel like if he was trying to move up, he would have done it a few rounds ago. It wouldn't make much logical sense to me for him to be trying to do that. Uh, maybe he's trying. It's possible. I think it's more likely that he's trying to trade a current pick right now for maybe like a fourth next year or something, maybe a future. We'll see.
As Vey hands in the trade sheet over to the commissioner, we'll see what this trade is announced for. Personally, Mo, I think you're on the right track here, is looking at trading a next year pick for this year or something, because the Rebels are still on the clock as we now get the trade announcement from the commish.
So we have a trade to announce. The Edmonton Warriors trade their 5th-round pick next year, the 2025 draft, for the Rebels' 6th-round pick in this year's draft. On the clock is the Warriors.
So it was just a simple pick swap as the Warriors trade round 5 next year to the Rebels for Rebels' current pick here in round 6. Do you see any strategy in this for the Warriors, Mo?
I mean, the only thing would be is that there's a player that they feel like they can't miss out on at this point, and that'd be the only reason why they would make this kind of trade.
Well, I will say head coach Vade does seem pretty happy.
From Warriors A, Kai Morris.
Kai Morris going to the Warriors. Vade looked really happy about that trade going through. Mo, do you have anything on Kai here?
I would be lying to you if I told you that I had much, but I just know that team last year was pretty deep, and they played a smart game, and they were all pretty coachable. So I think anytime that you could grab a player off of that roster, you're probably doing something right. As far as the individual, I can't really give you a whole lot.
As we keep moving into this draft, next on the clock will be the St. Albert Crude. So they've already made their pick, and they're up to make their selection.
From the North 17A team, Noah Reich.
Noah Reich going to the Crude here in round number 6. Another good pick by the Crude. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in today to the RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft here on Crowlax TV. My name is Keenan alongside Mo Joma, bringing you tonight's draft. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, as we will be live for every single game here in the North Division. All home games for all the teams, as well as South Division's Rocky View Silvertips. As Warriors head coach Vade Deep is moving once again.
Just a reminder to the 4 teams that were in the 7th round, you have 3 minutes to make your picks.
as the pick timer now drops in round 7 from as we move into round number 7 here of the draft. That timer drops from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, and the Crude are using their first 3-minute timeout of this draft. Mo, do you think the Crude just don't know what they're doing here? Or do you think they're trying to decide between some guys? Like, you're smiling as soon as I say that. You're laughing. What do you got? You got some inside info I don't know about?
I mean, I wouldn't say they don't know what they're doing. That's all. I know. I think they're at a point where they probably have 2 or 3 guys that they want to try and get still, and they don't want to screw it up. So you're getting into you're getting into the middle part of the draft. So it's really important to try and hit on 1 or 2 of these players here and try to fill out your roster. Once you start getting past like round 12, I mean, there's no need for a timeout at that point. So I think they're smart to use it now. Try to grab somebody that's meaningful and then go from there.
That's another thing to note again. It's kind of hard to see on the right side of your screen, but head coach Vadeep is back at the Rebels table once again. And I don't know if he's trying to make another deal with the Rebels or what here. I mean, he just traded a pick for pick. So I don't know if he has some sort of something he wants from the Rebels, and he was just trying to butter him up a little bit there with that initial trade. But the Crude are now making their way up to make their next selection of the draft.
The Crude are extremely happy to select from North A, Fernando Runco.
Fernando Runco from North A coming into the Crude program.
So I think the Crude had a kid with a relentless work ethic here, a guy that'll run 100 miles an hour up and down the floor. And he's going to be able to provide them a little bit of offense, but more than anything, like just grit and determination and effort. And those are the kind of guys that make a difference as the year wears along. Games get tougher, and in those big moments, you need guys that are gamers that'll step up. And I think Runco is one of those guys. Also, I believe it's his cousin, longtime Crude player Reese Runco. So he'll follow in his footsteps with the Crude as well.
Outlaws are now the next on the clock here in the draft. Round number 7 is now underway, going into the second pick of this round. As Vadeep returns to the Warriors table, looks like empty-handed. As the Outlaws coming to make their next selection of this draft. Round number 7 here of the North Division RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division draft.
7th round pick, number 26 overall. Oman Outlaws are proud to select from the Sherpark Titans,
Caden McCormick going 26th overall to the Beaumont Outlaws.
So the Outlaws grab a pretty athletic kid and a guy that will offer a lot in terms of just overall game, good on draws, probably a guy you can rely on a loose ball team. And if you need somebody to throw at the front gate and injuries or whatnot arises, I think you play some offense too. So the Outlaws with another pretty solid pick here as we move along, and another kid out of the park.
Third pick in the 7th round, the 4th Saskatchewan Rebels.
As the Rebels now on the clock here with the third pick of round number 7. They've had a few visits from a few teams. We'll see where they go from here. Rebels have now made their way up as they make their next pick of the draft. Pick 27.
With the 27th pick, we are proud to select from North A, Ashton Johnson.
Ashton Johnson going 27th overall to the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels from North A. Once again, you're tuned in to the RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft here on Crowlax TV. Thank you for tuning in so much. Once again, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Be notified every time we go live. 5 teams this year with Crowlax TV, not just the Crude Rebels, Outlaws, Warriors, but also the Central Division's Rocky View Silvertips. I have said South quite a few times. I don't know where I got that idea from. They are definitely in the Central. I apologize to the Silvertips as the Warriors come and make the final pick of round number 7.
Warriors are proud to select in the 7th round, 28th overall from North A, Blake Cameron.
Blake Cameron from North A going 28th overall in this draft to the Edmonton Warriors. As we now move into round number 8 of this draft, next on the clock will be the St. Albert Crude to kick off round 8.
Start the 8th round is the St. Albert Crude.
Proud to select from the Edmonton Warriors, Felix Rossman.
Felix Rossman going to the St. Albert Crude, first pick of round number 8. As well as we're heading into this draft, just want to remind you that as part of the draft, we are introducing a fundraiser for the Chris Latondra Wellness Foundation to support the implementation of Talk Today across this tier of the RMLL. We're teaming up with local branches of the Canadian Mental Health Association to implement the Talk Today program across Tier 1 Junior Lacrosse. It is one of the most comprehensive mental health programs for amateur sports in Canada. Strives to promote mental health of young athletes while spreading awareness about the benefits of positive mental health throughout communities across the country.
Number 30 overall, Owen Outlaws are very proud to select from the Sherwood Park Titans, Reed McGeary.
Sherwood Park Titans, Reed McGeary going to the Beaumont Outlaws in round number 8 here.
So this is a guy that I thought might go a little earlier. Plays a very physical game. Guy that's not afraid to slide and hit a guy pretty hard. He's aggressive. He's going to bring a little bit of an edge to their defense, and a guy that can definitely, as he matures and as he gets a little bit bigger, maybe one day could be an enforcer type player for them.
Rebels are next on the clock here in round number 8.
31st pick overall is the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels.
And we would also like to thank Vimy Ridge Lacrosse Academy for sponsoring us here on Crowlax TV. So welcome, Vimy Ridge Academy, and thank you so much for sponsoring Crowlax TV. A lot of former alumni of Vimy Ridge Academy in this draft today, producing quite a few high-level players. As the Rebels have now made their way up to make their pick in round number 8.
With the 31st pick, we're proud to select from the 4th Saskatchewan Rebels, the North A U17 team, Caleb Abiak.
Caleb Maverick going to the Rebels from the Rebels program. The crude table. Some sounds coming out of the crude table. It sounds like this was a guy that they really wanted.
All I got for you here is that I saw Babiak try to come up to the table in like the top 5, and he was told to go back. So now it is his time to come up, and he'll put on the Rebels jersey.
We also at Crowlax TV would like to congratulate all players that are drafted here in today's RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft. Congratulations to all the players and the families. We hope to see you on the floor this season. The Warriors have the final pick here of round number 8, making their way up.
32nd pick, Warriors are proud to select from the Sherwood Park Titans, Tyler Pennock.
Tyler Pennock from the Titans going to the Edmonton Warriors to finish off round number 8.
Next round with the 33rd pick overall, it's St. Albert Crude.
St. Albert Crude, 33rd overall pick to kick off round number 9. They have made their selection.
We're proud to select from the Sherwood Park Titans, Riley Burrell.
Riley Burrell from the Sherwood Park Titans. The first player picked in round number 9 heading to the St. Albert Crude. And once again, kicking off today is the Talk Today fundraiser for the Chris Letendre Wellness Foundation to support this across the RMLL Junior B Tier 1. Talk Today aims to combat stigma by starting a conversation around mental health and encouraging young people to seek help when they need it. Be sure to donate. We're going to be putting that link in the chat for you. But that link for you is edmonton.cmha.ca/talk-today-CLWF.
With the 34th pick in the 9th round, the Beaumont Outlaws are proud to select from the Warriors, Gavin Osman.
Gavin Osman going from the Warriors program to the Beaumont Outlaws here in round number 9. The Outlaws seem to be choosing a lot of big players here, Mo. I mean, like, they're just increasing in their size. Like, look at how tall this kid is. You can see it on your screens right now.
Yeah, definitely on the Outlaws checklist, it was like 6 foot and above check mark. If he fits that criteria, he's in. Osman will, in all seriousness, Osman will provide some physicality to the Outlaws back door, something that they definitely will cherish and prioritize on this new version of their team.
Fourth Saskatchewan Rebels now on the clock here. Round number 9, pick number 3 of this round. Again, thank you for tuning in to today's draft. Be sure to hit that notification bell. Bring you all the regular season games from the North Division. Crude Rebels, Outlaws, Warriors. New this season, Central Division's Rocky View Silvertips. For bringing you all of those games as well as the Larry Bishop Memorial Cup tournament. That is being hosted by the Silvertips this year. And that will be August long weekend. Just a quick thing to note as we move through round number 9, the Outlaws were visiting the Rebels table here in round number 9. There may have been a trade made. I'm not positive. I'm going to say no as the Rebels are now getting up to make their pick.
With the 35th pick, we're proud to select for the Fourth Saskatchewan Rebels in North U17-18, Aiden Greenwood.
Aiden Greenwood going to the Rebels from the Rebels U17 team here in round number 9, pick 3. It doesn't seem like the Rebels have swayed very much from their draft plan coming in. It seems like they're very quick to their picks, and they knew what they were doing. And sure, they made a trade with the Warriors here and there, but it seems like they just haven't had to sway from it.
You know, I mean, I feel like the Rebels have been pretty consistent in their draft approach throughout the years. They usually try to take some guys that they hold in higher regard than everybody else, and they go a little bit off the path. And then they start drafting some local guys, like you just saw with Greenwood, and a few other guys like that to round out their draft season. So I think, it's a little bit of a different way of doing things, but they're consistent with it, and it's worked out for them. They've contended, for the most part, for the last 5-6 years, relatively well.
Warriors had to confirm what pick number they're on. This is number 36, round number 9 here. Believe this is the final pick of round number 9. Before we start moving into the double-digit rounds, so Warriors now making their way.
Warriors with the 36th pick from North A, Bradley Tominga.
Bradley Tominga going to the Edmonton Warriors to finish off round number 9. The Outlaws were back up out of their table again. Talking to the commission, I'm not sure if they just submitted something trade-wise or anything like that, but something to keep your eye on.
Tenth round is the St. Albert Crew.
St. Albert Crude going to kick off the double-digit rounds. Number 10. This is pick 37.
Select from the St. Albert Rams, Chase Lemiski.
Chase Lemiski from the Rams, staying in St. Albert. He's got that bucket hat on. It's pretty nifty.
So this might be, the Lethbridge or the Lloydminster kids are considered B because that's what they play at that level. But a lot of them. That's the highest level in the area, so you could consider them A in some ways, the better players. This is the first kid I believe that played B in the city. He played for the Rams, and they had a pretty good year. I think they lost in the playoffs to Grand Prairie or something, but they were the best local team, and the Crew continue to add to their goaltending depth here with this pick.
I know that's one thing that I mentioned a lot last season, even in our midseason show, and going into postseason, was I felt that the Crude had probably the strongest goalie tandem of this division, even though the record didn't show it. But I mean, you look at the individual statistics of their goaltenders, and I mean, the Crude just, as I mentioned, also in Junior Beast right here on Crowlax TV. You can listen to that episode now as soon as this draft is done. Is the Crude had the goaltending, but they didn't have the luck. They didn't have the ball luck, quite frankly. They were getting balls into their own net, and they just basically couldn't put a beach ball into the opponent's net if they tried. I mean, that's just the kind of luck that they were having last season.
Yeah, and I think with the Crude, I mean, they were giving up so many high-end opportunities, and the opponent was playing with the ball all game. And when that's the case, it's tough. It's tough to keep the goals against down. I thought Horn had really good moments at times, Peck even as well. Um, but I think every team in this league could definitely address the goaltending position, and that's why I thought McGilvery and McLeod would definitely go higher than
With
they
the
did.
38th overall pick, the Rebels are proud to select from the Grand Prairie Thrashers, Kate Bujo.
The first Grand Prairie Thrashers pick here. And it goes to the 4th Saskatchewan Rebels. Once again, the Rebels last season were trying to take that fight to the Warriors. Both ended up 16-4-0. And the Rebels do get the next pick of the draft as well. So those Rebels finishing 16-4-0, as well as the Warriors. Both teams, game 3, the Warriors ended up taking it all the way to a Founders victory. And I don't know if you've seen it a couple times as the Warriors have made their picks, but you can see some of the Warriors coaching staff has on those gigantic championship rings. And I mean, me and Mo, we got a good look at them ahead of the draft here as we were chatting with the coaches. Those rings are absolutely beautiful as the Rebels make their next pick.
The 39th pick, the Rebels are proud to select from the Grand Prairie Thrashers, Cohen Fisher.
And Cohen Fisher from the Grand Prairie Thrashers also going here. 2 Thrashers picks back to back by the Rebels.
So, man, like the Rebels continuing with the rural approach, right? They go into Lloyd. Now they're going into Grand Prairie. In between, they drafted a couple of local kids, cut one from Fort Sask itself. Again, like the Fort Saskatchewan continues to tell you who they are. And I think a lot of teams build their identity through the draft, as you should. And Fort has chosen the way that they do things, and they've kept consistent with it. And I give them a lot of credit for it.
Again, and that's just to show, like last year, again, one more win, and the Rebels would have had that home floor advantage going into that playoff series. And who knows, once you have the home floor advantage, if that changes everything. But yeah, that approach has worked for them for the last few seasons post-COVID, and we'll see if it continues heading into the 2024 season.
And I'll take that moment to just say that I hope that by now we'll let Vay make his pick here.
Warriors are proud to select from Leduc, Dylan Lentz.
Dylan Lentz from Leduc going to the Edmonton Warriors here to finish off round number 10.
I think this is a pretty strong pick, actually, under the radar. Lentz is a kid that brings a lot of athleticism. He's probably one of the faster players, just straight line speed in the draft. And I think that the Warriors will be able to utilize him in certain situations, and he'll be a good addition to their roster. But what I was going to touch on there, Keenan, was I was going to take that time to say, like, I hope that this year and moving forward, we don't pack playoff series into a 48-hour window, because the Rebels clearly hit a wall last year in that third game, and that could happen to anybody, but I would just like to see it spaced out.
St. Albert Recruiter on the clock here to start round number 11. And I fully agree with you, Mo, on that. I mean,
play a best of 5 too, at least. Come on.
I know that some of us here at Crowlax TV have voiced our disdain for the current way that these playoff series are played. You got to wonder if the league is wanting to expand that out. I know from a broadcasting standpoint, I mean, it makes for great games when they're more spread out. And yeah, you're right. The Rebels did hit a wall. Had those games have been spread out, maybe we see a different outcome in last year's playoffs. But that's all part of the game too, right? Is that you're looking at the previous seasons, even pre-COVID, and the playoff format was the same. So it makes you wonder if you spread out these games, does it make a huge difference? And I don't know if the league has that same kind of opinion as we do, but you know,
I think without question it does it at the very least it increases the quality of lacrosse, and you're not putting at risk the wrong team, because in a best of 3, especially when it's jammed in like that, you're putting so many unneeded like random variables into the equation that I just don't think need to be there. And if need be, like shorten the regular season a little bit so you can at least stretch the games out. Go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday instead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and play a best of 5, and you're good.
Select from the Grand Prairie Thrashers, Carson Schultz.
and Carson Schultz going from the Grand Prairie Thrashers to the St. Albert Crude here to kick off round number 11. Bit of a smaller player here.
This
Mel.
is actually a really good pick. It's pretty. I think it tells you a lot that he's here too at the draft. This is a kid that can put the ball in the back of the net. I reffed him a couple of times this year, and he's a little unorthodox, but he's just one of those guys that knows how to score. And I think it's a good under the radar pick for the Crude, because the hardest thing to find in any sport is a guy who can score, and he can bring that. And he might take a year or two to get up to speed, but I think it's a good pick at this point in the draft for the Crude.
With the second and third pick in the 11th round, the Fort Spectrum Rebels.
The Rebels have back-to-back picks here in round number 11, picks 2 and 3 of this round. And to touch back on the playoff talk, I mean, you're right about the variables. I was chatting with head coach of the Rebels, Darren Beret, there on Junior Beast podcast, and he said that they did run into some injury trouble in the playoffs, and he feels that that's potentially what cost them a bit against the Warriors there in that North Division final.
Yeah, I mean, obviously both teams are dealing with that sort of thing at that point. But yeah, I mean, I guess I go back to the point of why put any team in that situation. I mean, I'm not talking on this from one team's point of view, right? It's all about everybody.
Caleb Bishop from the Lakeland Heat.
Caleb Bishop from the Lakeland Heat going with the second pick of round number 11 to the Rebels.
Yeah, and another pick from the rural areas.
And Colby Thomas, also from the Lakeland Heat. The second and third picks of round number 11.
I think this is a smart, it's a smart way of utilizing your resources. I mean, you have these kids available to you. Why not, tap into those markets? And that's what the Rebels are doing here. We saw them early in the draft go to Lloyd. Now they've gone to Lakeland and Grand Prairie as well.
44th pick, Warriors are proud to select from North A, Amir Joma.
Amir Joma going here to finish off round number 11.
He's not here? Yeah, I don't think he's here. So, yeah, so Amir goes. Another one of my, I seem to have a lot of family members.
Tariq, now Amir, who's next?
Yeah, a cousin of mine. But he's a kid that he started really coming to his own a bit later. But he's got a lot of physicality, really fast. Another really fast kid, and I think that he could be effective one day for the Warriors out the back gate.
The Crude now have the first pick of round number 12 of this draft, pick number 45 overall.
Select Ryder Morgan from North A.
Ryder Morgan from North A going 45th overall to the St. Albert Crude. appears he may not be here tonight. Thank you for tuning in once again to the RMLL Junior B North Division Draft here on Crowlax TV. My name's Keenan alongside Mo Joma, bringing you this draft. Make sure to like, hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. 40 plus North Division games this season. And it looks like there's a bit of confusion here. It's a bit of confusion here. So this is actually the Outlaws pick here.
After all the confusion, in the 12th round, the Beaumont Outlaws are proud to select Jenna Snyder.
Jenna Snyder going here to the Beaumont Outlaws.
I don't say this lightly. Probably the strongest female lacrosse player I've ever seen in my life. Like, she grew up on a farm in West Loch. I've heard stories of her like bench pressing cows and stuff, and
You can bench.
she's like,
Oh, there she is. She is here. I mean,
very athletic. And if there's one girl that could play at this level with men, it's her. Honestly.
this is honestly, Mo, one of the surprises to me is that it's not. I don't know the last time that we've had a female player in this division.
There's been a couple goalies here and there, but never a player.
Okay, I just want to say your 6 foot reference earlier still continues for these Outlaws. Look at how big Jenna is compared to these guys. I mean, you can see on your screen. I mean, wow.
Yeah, no, and then they continue to add a lot of size and strength to their lineup, which is something that you can never have enough of. And I think they're addressing their biggest issue, which was their back gate, pretty well in this draft.
Beaumont. Wow, as I drop my mic here, Beaumont Outlaws selecting Jana Snyder here in the 12th round of this North Division draft. And Fort Saskatchewan gets the next pick of this draft. Now, as we hit into the round number 12 here, we are starting to get to the point where these teams could pass and forfeit the rest of their picks. We've seen it as early as round 12 before. We've seen it as late as never. So, as a team drafting all 20 rounds. So, we'll see how we continue as the Rebels come up to make their next selection of this draft.
With the 47th pick, we're proud to select on the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels from Titans B, Josh Little.
Josh Little going to the Rebels. Again, another one from out of a Fort Saskatchewan program going to the Rebels. Oh, sorry, my apologies. That is Titans. Eventually, these just start to kind of blend together. Got a lot of players going in this draft. It's the Warriors coming to make their next pick. They didn't need any time on their clock. They know what they're doing. Vay knows what he's doing.
With the 48th pick, Warriors select from Wizards, Brendan Tustin.
Brendan Tustin going from the Wizards to the Warriors. Mo, you were tapping the table. You got something.
Yeah, sure. Okay, if you lined up every guy in this draft to run a 40, this kid would probably win by a full second. This is probably the fastest kid I've seen in minor lacrosse in the past 3 years. I didn't see his name on the list, but if this is the same guy I think it is, I'm pretty sure it is. Great pick by Vay and the Warriors organization.
Vay's smiling as you heard just say that, Mo. I think it is exactly who you think it is.
These guys think they're sneaky over here.
St. Albert Crew get the first pick of round number 13. They're already making their way up.
I was looking for that kid's name and he wasn't on the
We're proud to select from the St. Albert Rams, Riley Hoshko.
Rylan Hoshko from the Rams going to the Crude, staying in St. Albert. Another big body here going in this draft.
Yeah, I tend to like when teams do this too, especially as you move towards the end of the draft and middle rounds at least. You start to draft maybe a little bit lean towards some of the local kids, and you've seen the Fort do it in previous years, and the Crude took Lemiski a couple rounds ago. Now they take Hoshko, and I think that's good. I think it sends the right message to your minor organization that, like, you know what, if you stick with the sport and you progress and you get better, we'll take a serious look at you, give you an opportunity to play for us. And I think that's good that they lean that way and they take some of the players from their local organization.
Absolutely, Mo. 100% agree with you there. As we've been progressing through this draft, I start to wonder, do you think these kids are listening to us and what we have to say about them? I mean, they're standing like 2 feet away from us.
Yeah, maybe they got it out on their phones. I don't know. Some of these guys, I definitely think I mean, a lot of guys will probably go home and watch it after the fact. Maybe they'll put it up on their TV, put the speakers on so everybody in the house can hear it, especially if somebody says something good about them. That thing's being repeated over and over and over again.
As we move into pick 50 overall here of this draft, it's the Beaumont Outlaws get this pick.
With the 50th pick, the Beaumont Outlaws are proud to select Parker Connolly.
Parker Connolly going to the Beaumont Outlaws here, 50th overall, round number 13 of this draft. Fort Saskatchewan Rebels next on the clock. Never mind, they're up out of their table already. Third pick of the 13th round of the North Division draft. Pick 51 overall.
With the 51st overall pick, you're proud to select from the Border Roots, Alex Hill.
Alex Hill going here to the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels program. 51st overall. I don't think the Rebels got the memo from the Outlaws that to save all the 6-foot-plus kids for the Outlaws.
I think they got enough.
So we move into the final pick of round 13 of the 2024 North Division Draft. You're watching Crowlax TV. My name is Keenan Kanda alongside Mo Joma. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Be sure to subscribe. Edmonton Warriors, 52nd pick overall.
With the 52nd pick, Warriors are proud to select from Sherwood Park Titans, Sarah Peaver.
Sarah Peaver going here to the Edmonton Warriors, 52nd overall. The second female of this draft to be selected.
Yeah, that might break a record, to be honest. I mean, I know there may have been years where there was one, but for two to be in the same year, that's very rare if it's happened at all. And Sarah's played the game for a really long time, and she's got really good hands and can transition the ball. Time will tell, if she's able to make that physical jump to junior men's lacrosse, but she's definitely got a lot of the technical and fundamental skills that you need to play at a high level.
Even in 2024, still making history, probably anyway, with 2 female players selected very close together as well, might I add. Once again, St. Albert Crude backup. First pick of round number 14.
The Crude are happy to select Dario Berga from the St. Albert Rams.
Dario Burgo from the St. Albert Rams going to the Crude. And once again, this continues that trend of the local kids in those lower programs getting selected by the local team. Recent St. Albert picks have not wanted their picture taken, it seems. But thank you for tuning in so much. Can catch all the action this season starting in that last weekend in April. Crude, Rebels, Outlaws, Warriors, and new this year Central Division Silvertips, as well as the Larry Bishop Memorial Cup Tournament in August long weekend hosted by the Rocky View Silvertips. Have all that action for you all that weekend long. We still got a little ways to go as we move into the next pick of round 14, which is the Beaumont Outlaws making this next selection. Now, Mo, as we keep moving deeper into this draft, are you a bit surprised that no teams have decided to pass yet? I mean, we're halfway through round 14 already.
Yeah, I mean, usually you start to see it maybe 15, 16 might be coming. It might be coming right now as we mention it. But yeah, I mean, it is usually around this time. Usually not any earlier than this, though. So yeah, the Outlaws did officially just pass.
So the Rebels get the next pick of this draft. Looks like they are going to make a selection here.
And for anybody who's unfamiliar with how the draft works and how rosters, usually these teams are, I believe it's 50 people or 50 players that they can protect. So once they hit that, unless there's guys on their current 50-man protected list they want to peel off, they stop drafting.
We're proud to select the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels and the Sherbrooke Titans, Aiden Carruthers.
Aiden Crevers going to the Rebels from the Titans. So sorry, Mo, as you were saying, that 50-man protected lists here, teams will stop drafting once they hit about that.
Yeah, some teams will want to keep one or two spots open and
Outlaws are done drafting, but they're moving over to the Rebels table right now to make a conversation. Don't know if that's a...
And teams also will cut guys that played for them as well. But that's usually not until camp. Like, they're not... I don't know if it's ever happened where a team will remove a guy off of their 50-man protected list that played for them last year just to draft a kid. That just doesn't really happen.
The Edmonton Warriors with the 56th overall pick.
56th overall pick from Leduc, Riley White.
Riley White from Leduc going to the Edmonton Warriors here in round number 14, 56 overall.
Yeah, and there were two kids that stuck out on the Leduc team. It was Riley White and it was Lentz. And the Warriors grabbed both of them, both guys with high energy players that will bring a lot of speed to the Warriors lineup if they are able to make it or eventually make it at some point down the road. The one thing the Warriors, we've talked about main themes in this draft and kind of teams kind of being who they are. The Warriors in this draft have focused on some of the under the radar guys that they could get lower in the draft that are going to help them out the back gate, and that's what they did out of Leduc here.
First pick of round number 15 to the Crude.
The Crude are proud to select from the Grand Prairie Thrashers, Hudson Beeler.
Hudson Beeler from the Grand Prairie Thrashers going to the St. Albert Crude. First pick of round number 15. And on the topic of the 50-man protected list and cutting players on your team last year, I think I mentioned it earlier, but head coach Aaron Schmerman of the St. Albert Crew did mention to me in the Junior Beast podcast pre-draft edition that he fully expects to have to cut a lot of players that he had on his roster last year, especially with what he called a pretty deep draft this year. And I mean, that goes to show drafting 15th round picks here. As we skip over the Outlaws back over to the Rebels for the next pick of this draft.
With our 15th round pick, we're proud to select from the Warrior Brutes, Brady Gamble.
Brady Gamble going to the Fort Saskatchewan Rebels in round 15. Now, Mo, as we come to the completion of round number 15, do you see the other three teams passing sometime soon here?
I expect the Warriors to keep going because I think they want to really try to help their tier 2 team and get some kids into the system. The Crude might pass pretty quickly here, I think, and the Rebels. There's no real. I mean, I don't find they have really any rhyme or reason to how early they pass. I think it's just I don't know what their number is right now on the protected list, so I don't really know when they will pass if they will at all.
Well, the Rebels didn't lose too many pieces, it seems, last year, so you got to think that they're probably passing pretty soon, but especially now with the Outlaws out.
I think the biggest thing for the Rebels is what their front gate's going to look like. I mean, McCallion graduates. Tarek is graduates. They got to the deadline. Fodchuk goes back to the Crude. Reed Lowe, I expect to make the minors this year. So, I mean, Peterson, who played a lot of offense for them, he graduates. So, like, what's going to happen with their front gate? It's going to be a big issue.
Leah Schmidt going here to the Warriors. Mo, this has to be a record. This is the third female to be drafted in this draft today.
Yeah, it has to be. There's no way that any draft in the past has had. I'm 99% sure there's never been 2, and there's most definitely never been 3.
So Leah Schmidt goes here to the Edmonton Warriors. Yeah, as Eric just mentioned to us, that is 2 females to the same team as well. That is that must be a record as well. I mean.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely it's a good sign for girls lacrosse in general. And you've seen them; all 3 of these girls have played with the guys for the majority of their careers, and I think they're getting rewarded for it, getting drafted.
So the Crude have the next selection of this draft as we move into round 16.
With the first pick, the 16th round, St. Albert Crew.
The Crew take from the Warriors midget 18, Cole Cameron.
Cole Cameron from the Warriors midget A goes to the St. Albert Crude.
So that's a high reward, low risk pick there by the Crude. Cole Cameron is probably the best kid in the whole league last year, but he's moved to BC. So they're taking that as a flyer. If he ever does return, he is their property, and they would have his rights, his playing rights.
I'd almost take that as a sign that the Crude are coming to the end of their selections here, as the Rebels are now on the clock. And Fort Saskatchewan does pass. 2 teams out, 2 to go. Edmonton Warriors now on the clock here, round 16. So overhearing at the Crew table, they're contemplating if they're finished or not. V-Deep still looking through that available players list, seeing if there's anybody else that he wants before he makes the commit to pass here in round 16. Once again, thank you for tuning into the draft. As today we also launch the Talk Today for the Chris Latondra Wellness Foundation. The link to that is in the chat. It is pinned in the chat, so make sure go and donate to that. An absolutely wonderful foundation the Canadian Mental Health Association has partnered up with us for. So the Warriors come up to make their next pick of the draft, their round 16 pick.
64th pick overall from Grand Prairie, Carson Schultz.
As the Warriors may make
Warriors take a player who's already been taken.
They forgot to cross off Carson Schultz.
Kid comes all the way from Grand Prairie and gets picked twice.
Congratulations, Carson, first player to play for 2 teams in the same division. Vay returns to his table, looking to see if there's anybody else he wants to pick. This is totally history-making draft. The first player to be picked twice, 3 females. What's next, Mo?
I don't know. Maybe he'll follow. Maybe Vay's gonna follow it up with a nice pass now. Like, I'm done. I don't think the Warrior. I mean, Regan Carey is a bit of a tweener. He can play offense, defense, transition. They haven't really picked a pure offensive guy in this draft, from my recollection.
Well, let's see if that's exactly what Vay just did.
64th pick from the Wizards, Yusuf Dazowski.
Unfortunately, I do not know how to pronounce Yusuf's last name. I am so sorry, Yusuf, but congratulations. I don't want to try and butcher your last name, so it's the Warriors' 16th round pick. As we now move into round 17 for the Crude.
The Crude are proud to select Hunter Gillingham from the Rams.
Hunter Gillingham from the Rams going to the St. Albert Crude. Round 17 pick. As the Crude and the Warriors are the last 2 left, it sounds like the Crude are going to be done after this selection here.
Both the Outlaws and Rebels are done. So next up is the Warriors.
The Edmonton Warriors with their round 17 selection.
You gotta make sure he doesn't double dip twice. He might get fired on the toilet.
Last pick of the evening will be number 68 from the Wizards, Xander Dragon.
Xander Dragon going to the Warriors. He is not here. We have just been informed by Vay. He did say this is his final selection of the draft as well.
That concludes the live draft for all the players that got drafted. All the teams would like to have all the draft picks take a group picture. You can in the lobby, absolutely.
And that does conclude the 2024 Junior B Tier 1 North Division draft here on Crowlax TV. Mo, as we wrap up the draft here, how do you feel these teams did? I mean, it seems like there were some big bodies, some big selections, some surprise picks, also some value picks going on here.
Yeah, no, I thought the Outlaws grabbing McLeod and I thought the Rebels grabbing McGilvery where they did, 11th and 13th overall. I thought those were huge value picks for both of those teams. I thought the Outlaws did quite well in adding both some offensive flair and size. So I think on paper that continues to be a young, promising roster. I think the Crude had probably the Crude's best draft in at least 3 or 4 years. I thought they did a good job addressing some of their offensive needs and taking the best player on the board early on. And I thought the Warriors know their offense is coming back, and they only run like 7 guys out the front gate to begin with. So they took, a little bit of a different approach, and they addressed their back gate, which loses a few players. So the Rebels, you don't want to forget them as well. Obviously, I talked about it a little earlier. They were in need of some offense. I don't know if they addressed that, but what they did do is they added a lot of size and athleticism, and I think their transition game will be a bit better this year.
Well, that does conclude the 2024 RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division Draft. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Keenan Kanda alongside Mo Joma. We'll be bringing you all the action from the RMLL Junior B Tier 1 North Division, Crude, Rebels, Outlaws, and Warriors, as well as the Central Division's Silver Tips, brand new this year to Crowlax TV. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for every time we go live all season long. Thank you so much once again for tuning in. Have a good night.